All right. Yeah, microphone is on. I'm going to fix my hair a little bit and we are going to get after it. So, we are going out of order. So, I'm doing what's going on with this? Why does this happen to me? I was just on a call and my hair just looked kind of regular ratchet. And now it's like fully actualized as like something completely bizarre. But so we're going out of order. I'm doing chapter 13 first. I've discussed this in a previous reading, but let's just repeat it. I'm doing the 13th chapter, and then next week and the first 7 weeks of the new year, I am going to be doing chapter 12, which is about, we'll call it manifestation, conscious creation. And the importance of this is that it really requires more than just a read through. And I'm going to be doing it alongside with you all if you choose to follow along. This is not the, happy, just have happy thoughts and think about the stuff you want. This is a very practical combination of philosophical, psychological, and practical application. And it is the application I've used as for building all kinds of things that have to do with building a lot of money, building a lot of, like writing this book. The book is actually a product of its own methodology in this, especially in the chapter 12. And I am going to share this with you and we're going to talk about it and do it together. It is hard. It is hard. It is hard. And I'm going to be doing it for 8 weeks, 7 weeks in the new year, 1 week in the crossover year between the Christmas and New Year's holiday. And we're going to get after it. So I was thinking this morning, one of the things that's really great about having money, people talk about money a lot. At least like lately, I've been hearing people talking about money a lot. And one of the things is that I have to say for I was thinking this morning, I'm a landlord, and I was just thinking about how I consider it a service, that I'm providing a service. I don't, I take it really, like, I think it's a serious thing that it's like their home and it's their foundation. And so as a result of that, I really care that things are taken care of quickly, and I care about them. And I was thinking about how in previous iterations of my life, when money has been short, the tension that causes. So when they're calling and needing a repair or needing something fixed, that instead of me trying to figure out how to do it the lowest possible cost way, I think about doing it in the way that's going to delight them the most. There was like an issue with like the oven, and I had it replaced with this like fancy thing that had like all these additional functions and an air fryer built into the functionality in the microwave. That's the thing, and they were like, well, I don't, like they were like, it's like I rewired the electricity in the place because it was something that made them comfortable. Like that's, to me, is one of the reasons, in terms of thinking about like how to manifest, is that you actually get to choose. And it's not that it just passively happens because you get money that you start to feel secure and your money issues disappear. It's that you get to actually choose in this really safe way, and to really do the right thing by people and be generous and be kind and really like, exemplify your caring. So there's that. 4 minutes in. Okay, so chapter 13. This is the last chapter of the book. I'm feeling a little bit verklempt as I'm like winding into this. And I guess I'm feeling also kind of like comforted by the fact that there's still the process of the previous chapter that's waiting, because I think feel kind of sad if this is wrapping up completely. For whatever, this has really been an absolutely extraordinary process to be going through. myself, I didn't expect this to happen. I didn't expect myself to go through another layer of extraordinary transformation by reading this over this last year. So, this has opened doors and created expansion in ways that, are just magnificent. And in the spirit of transformation, has been very disruptive, but the outcome is great. So this is the last chapter, and the title of the chapter is "This Is It." The heading of the chapter is "Life is like arriving late for a movie, having to figure out what was going on without bothering anybody with a lot of questions, and then being unexpectedly called away before you find out how it ends." And that quote is by Joseph Campbell. It's really I mean, look, I think part of the thing is that especially in the ascending pathway, as we have, like, focused on in all of the readings up until now, that and yeah, is this kind of thing about entering a play that's already in progress, that's alluded to through in the earlier chapters. But the part that we don't actually, like, spend too much time being aware of is that the latter part, which is that, I mean, maybe some people think about this a lot. I guess I don't too much. But this thing where it's like, yeah, we also don't get to figure out how it ends. So it's like all your ending is kind of like an in the moment thing, which is that it's like, this is it. This is it. And this has a lot of different layers and in terms of what this means. But this is it. It's like this moment is how it ends. Like this, it's like, there's that movie, this has come to mind recently, which is like when As Good as It Gets was the name of the movie. It was like in the '90s, I think, and Jack Nicholson walks through the waiting room of a psychiatrist, I think, and, turns to people that were all in distress, and he said, "Well, what if this is as good as it gets?" Oh, because yeah, it's just I've gotta have a good laugh on that. Because here's the thing, it's this kinda like any sort of paradoxical thing, it's both true and false, where it is and it is not, where there's yeah, I'm not gonna get more into it. I'm gonna start reading. So, anyway, I'm gonna start reading, and I'm sending you, as I'm reading this, a lot of love and encouragement, and I do hope that you join through the process that's coming up for doing the chapter 12, the descending with the building and creating. Um, if you're real yeah, I've talked about that before, but here we go. And we've got a couple of readings in here, so hang tight. So if you've been waiting for it, if you've been waiting for a sign, this is it. You're a natural phenomenon that's complex, nuanced, and a miraculous expression of life. You can change your relationship with discipline and devotion from punishing to patient, persistent, and brightly burning, one in which you show up for yourself, progress, and continue to evolve. Ooh. There's never been anything wrong with you. And for those who have been informed that there is, it's the greatest lie ever told. You're the creator, and it's your calling to inhabit yourself fully as a warrior, builder, lover, and destroyer, advancing and liberating your humanity and your potential. Life is both beautiful and brutal, and it's your responsibility to act first for yourself so you can have more and have more to give. Keeping your body alive, continuing to experience life, and following the mission of your emblem. This is enough to keep you busy for a lifetime. I don't feel like I'm reading this well. It's really good though. I'm reading it and I'm like, yeah, I really like this, but I feel like my like delivery is like not doing it justice. All right, let's keep at it. So the practice can be like a log you're riding to cross a river. seeking a more authentic experience of personal integrity by reducing the interference of adaptations, holding patterns, and limiting belief systems. But it becomes an alligator when it turns into another pursuit of perfection, purity, and judgment of yourself and others. We grow wiser and more aware through experiencing both the rough edges of sorrow and tragedy and the amazing grace of spontaneous insights. Naturally, we're bound to question hardship, cruelty, and injustice as evidence of an imperfect system. But it's time to surrender the fantasy that you were born into a friction free life. It's also time to surrender the fantasy that your parents were supposed to do a perfect job of preparing you for the world. I'll reread that. Naturally, we're bound to question hardship, cruelty, and injustice as evidence of an imperfect system. But it's time to surrender the fantasy that you were born into a friction free life. It's also time to surrender the fantasy that your parents were supposed to do a perfect job of preparing you for the world. The thing that I'd add to that is that, and this has to do with my own evolution and ascension as it relates to doing this process over this past year, is that part of that surrendering of the fantasy of our parents is also awareness of the larger context that created the conditions that made it hard for them to heal, that put them under stress that was unnatural, that made them fearful, made them feel like indoctrinating us with shame was protecting us. Protecting us from what, you might ask? And that's part of what this awakening ushers in. We talk about that a lot. All right, so this work is not a tool to diagnose and or figure out what's wrong with everyone around you. When we realize that we all face challenges, understanding other people's confusing behavior as their adaptations helps to build more compassion and understanding, both for them and for ourselves. Yeah, that's something I'm just gonna, like, add in here, has been one of the extraordinary things about this practice, is that folks have talked to me about how it has changed how they relate to others and increase the level of compassion and understanding, both for the other people and also for understanding what is fair for themselves as far as upholding boundaries. So, one of the things I think, like, an underdeveloped strategy for having boundaries is to demonize other people. And that's kind of this thing of, like, pushing them away because 'cause they're dangerous, or, they're so-called toxic people, that these terms that are used. Instead, it's realizing that people have reasons for their behavior and that they are accountable for them, and that we can have compassion from a safe distance. That's the evolution from demonizing people, is the faith in their own redemption in certain qualities, the faith in our own redemption. Mhm. So, just like you, the factors that shape them are circumstances of life, not moral failings. If you're focused on everyone else's holding patterns instead of your own, you're on the alligator, not the log. The only thing close to being wrong with anybody is believing that there is something wrong. Again, this work is an inside job, but ultimately it's experienced and validated through relationships and connections. Very important. And, one of the things I want to say is that, holding up a boundary is not necessarily sort of a judge, jury, executioner thing. I think there are people that I hold boundaries with that if I had greater capacity, um, in certain hubs, that I'd be capable of being able to maintain at least some form of a relationship with people, and there are people that I'm just not capable of that with. And I don't look at that as like a moral failing. And I certainly don't want those people, I'd hope that these are not people that would take that personally, that there's something wrong with them. But I imagine many people do, even if it's like stated expressly or not stated at all, really, in certainly in some cases with me. But that our experience does not represent an absolute truth, as is discussed in throughout the book. There's a relativity and the insistence that our perspective represents an absolute correctness is is like another place where it's like a sticking point where we can really lose the fluidity and flow and the experience of aliveness in a way that's more liberated, that's more expansive, that's more dynamic. So the sense of right and wrong and of anxiety and peace are course corrections that support action. Occasionally, we all act in harmful and hurtful ways that have harmful and painful things done to us. The trick is to not let these feelings consume and obliterate us with guilt and shame. Our fear, guilt, and shame overwhelm. Once fear, guilt, and shame overwhelm, they paralyze us, and our ability to initiate corrective action gets blocked. If we believe our life is defined by its worst moments, we naturally defend ourselves, build walls, and start wars. You are not a scorecard of your mistakes and accomplishments. You're part of the natural world. There's both brutality and tranquility within your very being. Using the Parinama method, we seek to restore and remain dynamic in our adaptability to be responsible and to be held accountable. Yeah. So this is something in Parinama for Beginners that we did a deeper dive into, which is the difference between shame in terms of the chronic sense of an overwhelming notion that having done something wrong defines us, or doing something harmful or hurtful defines us. It may define us to another person. That is something that is like we have to accept accountability for. Someone else may have we may have like started, you know, and finished someone's impression of us as, and that's, and that's one facet of our existence. It's understanding that them seeing us as being completely one thing is not an accurate reflection of what we are. You are dynamic. You contain multitudes. We do terrible things to people. We do wonderful things for people. And taking accountability and responsibility to the extent that we can for the harm that we do without being overwhelmed by shame and defensiveness is such restoration. So you are an emblem, your soul. You are an emblem on a mission, and allowing your full expression means you let yourself have pleasure without guilt, uphold boundaries, be open to change, take responsibility for the effects of your actions, love yourself like your life depends on it. Use concentration to stay present and to create, connect, and contribute. Nature and the messages that come through inspiration are always looking for people to do their creation. I'm going to say that again. Nature and the messages that come through inspiration are always looking for people to do their creation. Whew. Opening yourself to this opens you to accessing your unique genius. There's something vital for you to do with your life. So simultaneously experience it. I'm going to reread that. So there's something vital for you to do with your life, to simultaneously experience it and to create it. People don't fail because of obstacles. They fail because they give up. So don't. Life's rhythms are both predictable and unpredictable, and riding the waves develops skill and agility. So I will give my reading on this probably a B minus. I'm a little my brain is a little bit scattered today. So if you want to reread this, I will say that my reading of it was a little bit like sort of stunted, but what was coming through as I was reading it was really I was really loving it. So if you're following along the book and you wanted to kind of dip right in and sort of touch on this, it's page 307. So we've got a few other oh my gosh, there's 3 other sections here for this week, and then we'll be off to the races, with conscious creation, aka manifesting. Okay, so the one thing I'm gonna say about the manifesting as I will be presenting it is a combination of qualities that have to do with perception, belief systems, and the things that are traditionally understood in manifestation, and the elbow grease, devotional, relational, and applied aspect of how to actually make things happen. So, I know that it's like a really great consumer product to be like, all you have to do is sort of like want something and be tuned into it. That is part of it. It is part of it, but there's also a really important applied part that has to do with this devotional act of showing up in a way that is transformational, truly and really and everything. And that is the crucible that turns us into the ascended and elevated people that we become through creating things. It's a breaking through. It's the breaking through that happens. It's the burning off that happens in the application. So, all right, I'm sending you a lot of love and encouragement and hope, and I'm very excited for this process I'm excited to also continue reading this chapter. It is very meaningful for me. It was the last chapter that I wrote of the book. Yeah, I did. I wrote this. This is the end. I wrote this in the last month. It came through. It was very interesting how it came through, and maybe at some point I'll talk a little bit more about it. But, yeah, I'm sending you love, and I can't wait to see you until next time. Bye for now.